Hello and welcome to another edition of Question by Mark. I've got a great guest coming up. It's the second time on my show, so I'm quite honoured to have her on again. Before I bring her on, though, I wanted to say something myself. Now, at the time when this is being recorded, just a few hours ago, Hamas released the bodies of 4 people back to Israel. 4 bodies, 2 of which were very, very young children. Now, you'll probably remember these were almost the face of when Hamas attacked Israel back when. A young mother with her 2 children. You could see the frightened expression on her face as they took her hostage. And Hamas have handed her body and her 2 children's bodies back to Israel today. So I didn't want to do this without saying anything this morning, because I've been watching the Israel-Hamas conflict with interest, obviously, from what I'm doing now. And just what a barbaric act that is. And not only did they hand the bodies back, they put them up on plinths with a picture of Benjamin Netanyahu behind them, basically saying it was his fault. In fact, they said it was US bombs that killed them. Absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish. More to the point is probably that they couldn't look after them with the 2 babies, so they just killed them instead. This is my thought on the whole thing. Once the last hostage has been released from Hamas back into the hands of Israel, when the last one is handed over, Israel should finish the job that they started and totally eradicate Hamas completely. Because if they don't, this is just going to happen again and again and again. And I would not be surprised if that is what they're planning anyway. So we'll wait and see. But a sad day. Nobody likes to see kids hurt, killed in such a barbaric way. So that's my thought on that matter, and I will discuss it myself on a live coming shortly. Okay, so back to my guest today. Her name is Leilani Dowding. She's been on before. She's absolutely great. I love talking to her. Let me bring her on to the stage. Leilani, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? You're looking a lot healthier than when I last saw you, happier and healthier.
Yeah, I'm a lot better. I thought last time we spoke, I hadn't been out of, I had my case had just been finished not long ago. It was still a bit up in the air, but yeah, I'm getting there. I'm enjoying what I'm doing on here now. I was talking earlier that when I got arrested, I had 4,000 followers on here. I've now got 24,000 followers. So it just goes to show the interest that people have in the government corruption, as it were.
Absolutely.
Leilani, I've just put a post out on X, and it's basically saying that I was born in 1979 and I'm Generation X. Now, you're either Generation X or you're a millennial. Which one is it?
I'm very much on the cusp.
What year was you born?
X. Whatever. I identify as Generation.
Oh, right. Okay.
I am not a millennial.
Okay. We'll leave it as that then. I shouldn't have really asked the lady what her age is, should I? Leilani, I've got when I advertised this, I asked the question if anybody would like me to ask you anything, then please put it in the comments. And I have got a few questions for you, so I'm going to read them all out. Silly or not silly as they are. Okay, so a guy called Pavi G said, has Leilani thought of setting up your own podcast? She's such an important voice right now, and I think you could do an amazing job. Now, I don't know whether you've got a podcast or not. I certainly haven't seen it, but has that ever entered your thought process?
You know, a lot of people have asked me. I have a YouTube, but on my YouTube, I tend to do a lot of the things that I'm doing in my everyday life, DIY, life around the small holding. It's got the chickens, the horses, the dogs, fixing fences and all the other things that come, painting and redecorating and all that kind of stuff. But as far as a podcast goes, I think I'm not a very good interviewer. I think it's a different skill set. Like you, Mark, you ask great questions. You know, I listen to Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, Mark Stein, all these people that have good followings. I can't remember, I'm doing his podcast, like Liam Tufts.
Oh, yeah.
And all these people, and they're really good interviewers. And I'm not such a great interviewer. I don't know why that is. I think it's because I'm always asked the questions. So
have you tried something like that before then?
No, I used to do a lot of stuff for Iconic, and I was trying to work on it. That's David Icon. Sorry, that's his two sons, Jamie and Gareth's show, along with David. Their channel that they had. So I was on there, and I did host for a little bit. But what is it? I don't know. I think I prefer being a guest, and I think, when you have your own podcast, you have to get to a schedule. You have to make sure you do it all the time. And it's hard. People think it's easy. It's not easy, is it?
Harder than what you think. You have to research everybody that that's coming on. You have topics that you need to know about yourself. You can't just be asking pie in the sky questions. You need to have some kind of understanding of what you're asking.
Yeah.
I personally think you would be great as
thank you. I mean, I think if I could set aside time and do what you do and do all the research that you do into your guests as well, then maybe. But every time, if I feel like speaking or something like that, I'll go on Twitter and I'll say a little thing. But if it's hosting guests and interviewing people, it's much harder. And I don't really want to do a podcast where it's just me speaking about what I think. It's not quite as interesting as interviewing people and getting them on. And I think that's a real skill set. Like I said, I think you do it well.
I appreciate that. Thank you. There's your answer, Pavi. No, stop asking. Next question. Now, this guy, he's not got a name. It's just a variation of letters and whatever it is. So I can't tell you his name, but this is probably why he's asked this question, to be honest, because he knows that nobody will find out who he is. Will Leilani ever stop wearing those hideous barnacle shoes?
So what he was talking about? He's talking about my Crocs, and then I have all these things that I stick on my Crocs, and the answer to that is also no. I will not stop wearing them because they're so comfy. I can just chuck them on. I'm in and out my house all day long doing gardening, horses and whatever. So they're really, really easy. And the answer is there's no way. There's no way, except for when I got my wellies on.
So stop the silly questions, and the answer is no. And next time, can you put your name in the comments so we can out you for asking such ridiculous so a message from Deborah Milton says she loves this lady. She's awesome. So thanks, Deborah, for that. Oh, to be British and free says another one for the watch list. So they will be watching this back. Lady Maggie says, love this lady. Stop socialist tyranny. So he's got a couple of questions for you, but one we've already covered when we last spoke, so I'm not going to ask that one. So the question, and he says, great guest choice, by the way. So he's happy about it. He said, ask her about Keir Starmer's handling of child grooming gangs. Now, this could be quite broad, so I don't want you to go into too much detail, but just your initial thought process around that.
Well, it's absolutely horrific, isn't it? And he was one of the people that was on because I'm on the spot, I'm going to forget the name of it. But there was a group of people, and he went to 21 meetings. I'm just trying to think what it's called. But anyway, this group of people, they came up with the decision that not all child sex offenders needed to go to jail. And Keir Starmer was part of that group. I didn't know that. Yeah. If I had looked on my phone, I could have it. I've posted about it a million times. There was a whole page about it. I think is it the Sentencing Council? I don't want to get it wrong. I have a feeling it's the Sentencing Council.
Oh, look, you carry on talking.
Can we do a Joe Rogan and look it up? 21
Sentencing Council, did you say?
Pardon?
Sentencing Council.
Yeah, I think it's but if you look up Keir Starmer attends 21 meetings, I think it's the Sentencing Council, and it will say that they then decided that not all child sex offenders should go to jail. I think it's horrific. I think, but I think it goes back further than Keir Starmer. Look at Katie Hopkins when she said that these grooming gangs were Pakistani Muslim men predominantly. She literally got pulled into the police station for saying it. So it does go back further. it's more than just Keir Starmer. There's an entire cover-up going on. And, but to answer the question, I think his handling of it was absolutely appalling. And he's even worse. His handling of everything's been awful. Look at Stockport. Look at Southport. I can't believe I said that wrong. Look at Southport. Look what happened when he went there. Look what he knew probably prior to it. And then look how he handled upset people who were upset about the facts that they had heard. So he's just a horrific leader.
He's probably one of the worst we've had. I asked the question the other day, is he actually the worst Prime Minister that the UK's ever had? You've got Liz Truss, you've got other candidates. But he's got to be, isn't he? He's only been in the job a matter of months, and what they've provided for the public so far has just been a pile of shit, has it not?
Yeah, honestly, in my opinion, he's the worst. He's the worst I've ever known.
Yeah,
I think he's a horrible, odious, despicable character.
Absolutely. It was the Sentencing Council. They advised the judiciary on sentencing and guidelines around that. So you're quite right with that. So good knowledge.
Oh, it's awful. I'm just terrible on the spot. It's my age. It's being a Gen X. It's like perimenopausal stage.
There you go. We got it eventually. She's Gen X, same as me. So Phil says, you're easy on the eye and very switched on and speaks her mind. Question. She's locked in a room. I love this question, by the way. You're locked in a room with Keir Starmer, the harmer. He's been given a truth drug, and you're allowed to ask him 2 questions. What would those questions be?
Oh, God, I'd have so many. I want to know, I think, who do you answer to? Yeah. So, I don't believe this necessarily all comes from him. I don't believe this is necessarily ignorance or incompetence. I think it's all very deliberate. So yeah. I want to know who he's answering to. And I think just because it's relevant, I would want to know how much he knew about Southport when he went to, would it be, if I asked that and then led it on with, how much do you know, and is that a fair question?
We'll allow it.
And why did you respond the way you did and lock the people up? People like you for saying something on social media. I want to know what I think. If that's 2 questions, I kind of cheated there, isn't it? Then I think I would want to know the latter, because I'd want everyone else, just so I could share it with everyone else as to why. Absolutely. I think we know why. But...
Yeah, 100%. The second question would be one of the questions I would ask. Another question I would ask is, does his wife watch when he's having his voice coach lessons? That would be one that I would want the answer for. Just going back to the people locked up for saying things. Let's not forget, Leilani, that there's still people currently in jail that are still in there and will be there all this year for not a lot less than what I've seen other people saying. There was I put a post out the other day, and it was about, I think he's definitely a Muslim and he's definitely a journalist, and he put something on the thing, says, when is the next plane's going to crash in America, basically referring to the Twin Towers. It had millions of views, and nothing's going to happen to him. I'm pretty sure he's in the UK. I forget his name. It begins with M. But yeah, puts a post out saying that. And then you look at Labour politicians' tweets that they've put out. Wes Streeting saying about chucking people under trains. What's happened to him? Why has he not been dragged over hot coals? Because the other guy, Andrew,
Ricky Jones, he's not even going to have his trial till later this year. So he, unlike the others that were said, like, you're going to be stuck here, plead guilty, or you will be held on remand until your trial, which could be any time. He was released on bail early doors. He's walking around. He's going to have a trial. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I don't think really any of these people should be in jail for stupid things that they've said. But you've got to hold everyone, you know, it's got to all be kind of held to the same standard, which it's not. So he's been allowed bail. He's out. He's walking the streets. He's able to get his life in order should something happen where he does go to jail. I'm sure he won't, because he did plead not guilty, I think. Did he? He pled not guilty.
I'm not sure about it. So, yeah, it was a not guilty plea, I think.
So, you know, he probably won't. But unlike other people that were said, you know, we're just going to hold you on remand until your, you know, until your trial.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's definitely two-tier
100%.
everything going on. Two-tier sentencing, two-tier policing, two-tier court systems, just everything. So, yeah.
That was the other question that I said I didn't want to ask because we'd already spoke about it. It was two-tier policing. But some of the tweets that West Streeting put out, and I know it's historic and I know it goes back, but then you've got other people that have been done for historic tweets, like Bernie Spofford, for instance.
Yeah.
That was one. And is it June Slater, the other one?
No, there was Lucy Connolly, but she went to jail. She went to jail over something that she had taken down within 2 hours. She'd removed it.
Exactly, yeah. And if you know, it's not one wall for one and one wall for the other. And I was banging that drum hard. And it's really weird because my post gets a lot of engagement, even if I put something silly up. But I put a post up about West Streeting saying, why is this geezer not in jail or at least been, you know, suspended from the Labour Party? And it had like 200 views. So then you think, is that deliberately being
suppressed?
Yeah, I don't know is the honest answer. Right, last question from the followers. Hazel, she says, morning, will you be asking her to support the Stop Paying for Tax campaign? Now, I have already asked you this and in private, so if you don't want to answer when this goes out, you don't have to, but I know the answer already. Did you want to respond?
Yeah, do you know what? I actually, what I don't want is I don't want what I think to land people into trouble.
Yeah.
But in general, I support this campaign because the councils are not doing as they said. And I know we'd kind of spoken about other things to do with councils, but I just found that my council, Staffordshire Moorland, is under threat of being taken over by Stoke Council. Now, I'm telling you this now, that if Stoke Council swallow up Staffordshire Moorlands, there is not a chance in hell I'm paying any council tax. Right now, I'm paying it because I think the council where I live and who I pay my council tax to is doing a reasonably good job. You know, everything's clean. I live in a lovely village. There's nothing really that's really needful. Maybe we need a bit more rural policing. I would say that's one thing I would like to see from our council, some rural policing. But Stoke Council are bankrupt. They've been bailed out by the government. So by swallowing up my council, Newcastle under Lyme, Stone, Stafford, by trying to swallow this up and make it into this one huge district, we're all going to be paying for them. And I am not going to be putting my money into Stoke Council for them to squander. I don't know what they're spending their money on. They can't obviously balance the books, and I'm not going to put my money into a council like that. So I can say now that I will not be paying council tax. And actually, if they swallow up Staffordshire Moorlands, I'm also going to, because I've been paying direct debit, ask for a refund of all the council tax that I've paid once it gets swallowed up, because I'm not doing it. And I've seen, you know, a lot of the videos where they've sent out court summons, and they've not been stamped by a magistrate. They're not even from the court. The councils have been doing it themselves. So do I support the people that want to do this? Yes. If your council isn't spending your money properly, and this is the only protest you can make, because you're not saying I'm never paying it, you're saying I am withholding it.
Yeah.
I'm withholding it until you show me how you're spending the money and show me that you're spending the money correctly and properly, And, you know, they're not all these kinds of backhanders. So long-winded way of actually, you know, I'm saying yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I had an expert on last night. We've done a live show about council tax and the legalities behind it, etc. And basically, what he said is, there's a loophole, if you like, that if you feel that your money is being spent on funding wars, then you have a right to withhold, essentially. So, and basically what they said is, well, your money is never really looked after by your local council. It all goes to central government, and central government are funding the Ukraine war.
Mm.
So it's very interesting. If you haven't watched it and you get like an hour to yourself, just have a quick look at it, because it's really interesting what the guy said, and some of the loopholes around wording is but that you will go through a process. You will get letters, you will get court summons, you may even get a bailiff at your door. However, if you wise up on the legalities of it all, then there's ways around it. And like you say, we're not going to be not paying, we're going to be withholding.
Yeah.
I live in a lovely area in Rutland. Our council is great because it's the smallest county in the UK. So I've really got no issue, but I've got issues with Labour, and I've got issues of their manifesto built on lies, etc., etc. So I will be making my phone call at the start of April. I can't lead a campaign to stop paying council tax and not do it myself. So I will certainly do it. Okay, thanks for answering. You didn't need to do that, but I appreciate it. A couple of topics that I wanted to talk to you about today, which we have discussed, is the first question is, are our children safe in schools? Now, you don't have children, do you, Leilani?
No, I don't. But I have a little niece. I've been posting her a week. I've got her for half term. And no, they're not. And I worry daily for her. You know, just after the horrific massacre at Southport, I picked up my little niece because she was at a holiday club. That's what it's called, isn't it? When they do their half term and they go to holiday club. And, you know, I picked her up and I thought, God, you know, this could have been anywhere. This could have been anywhere in the country. This happened, you know, and it could have been anyone's kids or nieces or grandchildren or sisters or brothers. And I don't think our children are safe at all. And, you know, how many knife murders have there been since Southport? Older children, you know, but not that much older, 12, 13,
No,
14, stabbed at school. There was one just in Sheffield not long ago, a 15-year-old boy stabbed,
killed.
And, you know, I got told by parents, because that isn't too far away from me, that their kids go to the same school, that they'd got letters from the headmaster saying, you know, trying to say it was an educational visit by the police, instead of saying that there was a lockdown, and he'd come in with, I think someone said, a shard of glass, or, you know, and parents didn't get the truth. You know, they didn't get the truth.
No.
So, and then there were others, you know, kids walking home from school.
That's the scary thing, though, Leilani, isn't it? It's like that incident there, where the young lad tragically got murdered by one of his fellow pupils. We won't name names. I got myself in trouble for naming names. But there was an incident the week before, and like you say, it was all covered up by the headmaster to the children. Now, if my kid was going to a school where that happened the week before, damn well I want to know what's happened. Yeah. Instead of fobbing it off as a police visit to advise children on whatever. I think that is scandalous. And I think, you know, if he ever teaches again, or I don't even know if he's been suspended, this guy. His name's Sean Pinder. He was the headmaster, sending a letter out saying because people were concerned. And then a week later, the guy that brought the shard of glass the week before is there stabbing and killing another. I think it's scandalous that these sort of details of things are being hidden from us all the time.
Yeah,
and this is not just at that level, but mainstream media, the government, all things like that. Surely we have a right to know exactly what's going on at all times, do we not?
No, we absolutely do. We absolutely should. As parents, as parents should be told about all of this. And then you see you see a lot of parents forums talking about, so not, you've got this, that parents have to be worried about sending their children to school because of other students. They're not getting told the whole truth. But then you've got, all these new centres for the asylum seekers propping up around schools. So now you see, I've seen it on the news, and they broadcast it showing, teachers or parents in their high vises coming out. It's on the way to school and on the way out of school, standing around, making sure that they're highly visible. So any, people who decide they're going to lurk around children's schools might be put off. We shouldn't have to live in a society like this. And I've got to say, there was a Welsh guy. I should have had notes with his names on. I didn't realize I was going to speak about this though. The Welsh guy the former Marine, who had spoken about getting an army together to stand, or former and vets and whatever. But when he never said about any kind of violence. He said to stand outside schools and kids clubs and to keep our kids safe, because no one else is going to do it. And they tried to lock him up as well. And he's literally saying we need to,
well, he did. He went to jail, didn't he, for 3 weeks? His story is very, very similar to mine.
Yes.
He got locked up for 3 weeks, and he was let out on bail, and then he had a trial because he went not guilty. The only difference between mine and his was his jury took 12 minutes to acquit him. Mine took 7 days. But I interviewed him. That's a good interview, and he's a lovely chap. He really is.
Yeah. And so again, he's saying, look, our kids aren't safe at school, and they're not. And the crazy thing about it is that you see that these parents are doing that, and it's even on the news that they're doing it. So the fact that he got arrested because that bloody MP, wasn't it, that pushed for it, used her political influence to get him arrested for saying something that actually parents are having to do. They are having to do it, and they are having to go and stand outside schools to try and keep kids safe. And that shouldn't be their job. The reason they send their kids to school is probably so they can spend the day working, because if they could afford to not be working, they would probably have their kids at home, homeschooling them, or, spending time with them. So, you want to send your kids to school and think they're going to be safe, and they aren't. Getting there, getting back in school.
The absolute crazy thing as well is if you withdraw your child from school to homeschool, you can get fined. You can get fined and have to go to court and stuff for pulling your kid out of school. But
this is a thing as well. Take a kid on holiday, and the same thing. Go to court, get fined if you pull your kid out of school. Okay, well, what if your kid does something and starts taking knives into school? If you can look at the parents who's taken their kid out of school without it being a holiday, to take them on to a vacation somewhere because it's it's a little bit cheaper, and that might be their only opportunity to have a foreign holiday and go and learn about another culture, they're going to fine the parents for that and prosecute the parents. But the kid brings a knife into school, nothing. Like, the parents, they're not going to hold the parents responsible in any way. I mean, that to me is nuts as well.
Absolutely. I mean, physical safety is one thing, Leilani, but what about emotional and mental well-being? Do you think schools are doing enough to protect kids from that sort of thing?
No, that's a hard one, because I don't know. I think
it'd be difficult for you to say, obviously, because
I don't have children, so I don't know how things are kind of emotionally. What scares me is the difference in bullying. When I was at school, you just had to worry about a few words, and everyone gets so offended by words these days, which is what I come from a time when the worst kind of bullying you had at school was words. No one really got into fist fights, not really. That would be, and if they did, that would have been the worst. But sure, there was no one getting stabbed at school when I was at school. No one bringing in knives and stuff to school. That just didn't happen. No. If that had happened once in 5 years, I think everyone would remember it. I just don't remember it happening ever when I was a kid, that anyone got anything like that. And now it's almost a normal occurrence. So for me, it's all like kind of weird because nothing's really done about it yet. We have this whole thing, like, you know, when you got arrested for words, and everything's about words, but it seems that, you know, there's no attention anymore to violence. So I don't really know about, you know, how they're dealing with kids, like, emotionally. I think it's a little scary that they've said that Labour have said that they don't necessarily think you need to share the curriculum with parents. So you might not always know what your kid's going to be learning about, you know, in sex education or at school. I think that's pretty scary. But I'm sure it's emotionally, if kids are in these schools where a lot of violence is happening, emotionally, that's going to take a lot of toll on children, because they're going to go into school, even if they don't have any, you know, if it wasn't a kid in their class that's got a stab, if they've seen people coming in with knives or whatever, I think, or seeing violence at school, I think obviously that's going to harm them emotionally.
Absolutely. I can say this because I know that it seems like every week, Leilani, we get a letter or an email from schools, not just from the school my kid goes to, but other schools in the area, saying that they've seen certain individuals outside the school grounds. We need to be wary about this man in a car. I mean, it's absolutely balmy that we live in this world. What gets
and
me
there's been
is,
a lot of kidnappings, attempted
yes, yes, yeah,
kidnappings. There's been a lot of attempted kidnappings of children, and not just little girls, boys as well.
yeah.
That's on the rise. I think they've been kidnapping or attempting to kidnap boys.
And we can speculate as to why. I've got my own reasoning as to why, and I don't mind airing it, to be honest. It's migrants in migrant hotels. These are the areas where this sort of thing is happening. Coincidence? I don't think so. Did you hear about the you know, obviously the Southport incident? The girls that went to that dance class. I know because I've spoken to one of a family member of one of the girls that went to that dance class, who was there on that day, and another girl that was at that dance class as well. They both were not injured or survived. They survived. They go to a school which is really close to that area. So then, straight after Southport, after everything had died down, you would have thought, right, that the schools would have been educating on safety, on what to do in a certain situation if that was to happen, for building the kids back up again and not fear. Do you know what they started teaching instead? They started to teach how we have to interact with the Muslim community and how their beliefs that we should be mindful of them. Straight after, I mean, it blew my mind, you know, that straight after they thought the way to deal with the kids and to help them was to make them understand that, you know,
But this is what's mind-blowing, because this is what's mind-blowing to me, is that they do all of this, but they would have known exactly what happened in that, because Southport's such a tight-knit community. Like you said, the parents of little girls that had gone there to, you know, the girls had gone to the same school, so the community would have known what had happened. And instead of offering support, to even put this on the curriculum at all is nuts. I mean, they could have just said nothing at all about that, but instead of offering support, they've gone way over this side, and they're going to be like, right, we need to teach about, you know, inclusivity and this, that, and the other, and embracing everyone. How can you embrace somebody who doesn't want, you know, to, like, I'm
not interested in our culture, our way of life. Yeah, you're quite right.
There's going to be kids, and you see it with school shootings, that these kids are weird and they're loners or whatever it might be, especially in the American schools. Well, it's not the other kid's fault for not wanting to be around that weirdo. Maybe the kid was just such a weirdo and giving off such bad vibes that no one else wants to be near him, or he was violent. Like, I wouldn't have wanted my child to have ever been school friends with Axel Rudabakana, because I would have wanted that my child to say, he's exhibiting weird behavior, mum. Like, you know, I'm a bit worried about him, or you know, we shouldn't just be saying, except, you know, everybody. We should be seeing if they're not behaving in a normal way, or they're behaving in a creepy way, or a extreme way. Or,
and that's got nothing to do with skin color either.
No,
you know,
exactly.
it's to do with people's personal makeup, what they believe, and what they. I mean, Muslims celebrate death as much as what they celebrate life, if not more. You know, and you're quite right. The people that are coming into our country, fighting age males, no women, no children, and also the thing is that we're not having babies. We're not having babies, but they are having lots of babies. So within 20 years' time, we could quite possibly be living in an Islamic country with nuclear weapons. It's a scary thought to have, but it's not about color. It's about personal traits. What people, you know, I call out white guys for rape gangs, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it should be about. It's about people's mindset, and I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, like, I've watched people like Majid Nawaz, you know, he'll call out the Pakistani rape gangs, even though he's a Pakistani Muslim himself, he'll call them out. And you know, there's a lot of others. Gosh, it's a well, I forgot his name as well. So I speak to him on Twitter all the time. So I think it's Sahil Shuab or something, a Welsh guy from Saudi Arabia. He has a car with a British flag on it. He's a Muslim, but he has a car with a British flag on it. He embraces Britain. He loves being here in this country, and he has been attacked so many times by the Muslims in his area. You know, and he speaks about it a lot. He's always posting about it, and he actually got pulled in.
And they're his own people.
Yeah, because those people have reported him for being far right. This is a guy, by the way, a legal immigrant from Saudi Arabia who embraced Wales and Britain, and has, you know, and so, you know, there are good people calling, you know, the bad ones out, and we should all be able to do that. This is why this like whole, you know, these blasphemy laws or talking about Islamophobia is not good at all. You know, I often wear a cross. I went to a Catholic school. I will call out, you know, the Catholic priests that mess with children. We should all be calling them out, all of us. And we should be allowed to call out, you know, everybody of every color and of every faith who does anything wrong without being labeled far right or racist or whatever. And the people from those communities that call them out should not be called the most disgusting names that they get called as well for doing so.
Absolutely. Well said. I want to move on from that to something which I know that you've commented on Twitter, because I read your feed regularly, and that is DOGE. So for people that don't know what DOGE is, it's the Department of Government Efficiency. I thought it was economics at one point, but it's not. It's efficiency. So this is the department that Elon Musk is in charge of over in America. And boy, oh boy, it's causing a bit of a shitstorm over there. They are uncovering a lot of stuff in America. So just your first comments on what they're doing there, if you don't mind.
You know, I think it's amazing, because this is the problem. You've got all this government funding going all over the place, and you don't really know where it's going. No one's really telling you. It's a lot, you know, there's a lot of backhanders. It's, you know, some could call it money laundering, but it's going to places that the American taxpayer would not want it to be going to. So, you know, the USA has got that huge debt clock. Well, now they've got the DOGE clock as well on that debt clock, showing how much money they've recovered from all these ridiculous contracts that they're stopping. And I think it's 107 billion already that they've managed to claw back. You know, they're stopping all the nonsense DEI stuff. They're stopping some of the money going to charities or like USAID, for example. And then when they found out where a lot of the money from USAID is going to, and it's just nothing that helps Americans in any kind of way. So, yeah. You know, I think what they're doing is absolutely amazing, and we need one in England as well.
Yeah, you did highlight the DOGE's £107 billion savings for US taxpayers. It was a tweet that I read. What specific strategies from their approach in America do you think the UK could adopt to tackle its own government spending issues?
Well, you know what? There's a lady called Charlotte Gill, and she has a Twitter account called Woke Waste, which is amazing. And I've only actually just about came across these the last couple of, I think maybe a week ago. And also the procurement files. And they will just, if you go onto the procurement files, you'll just see screenshots from the government website of the government contracts that have been handed out. So if I just took a load of screenshots because I was like, well, this is like insane. So you've got a contract for 73 million that had been handed out for interpretation for the NHS. So that's our tax money. 73 million is going just to pay for interpretation services in the NHS.
Crazy.
I'm going to pull up some other ones. Okay, the UK taxpayer spent 112,000 on 2 diesel SUVs for the British High Commission in Pakistan, Islamabad, right? So why are we paying, that money for, 2 SUVs? But I'll go to some like bigger ones. I've got to find them all here. I've screenshot.
I think with regard, whilst you're finding them, all these middle managers that companies have, that money's being spent on it's in the civil service. Are you a believer that we could do with? I mean, when Elon Musk brought Twitter, his first week was busy going to the offices and then sacking a shitload of people and working with maybe a quarter of the staff and to the same efficiency.
Exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? Getting everything streamlined and efficient. And we have so much waste going on. Like here, £64 million for venue hire for computer delivered exams for the British Council, Middle East and Africa. 64 million. Okay. The UK taxpayer will spend up to 300 million on the service and maintenance of heat pumps. The contract is still open for tender. The UK taxpayer will spend 17.6 million on TfL, Transport for London, contract to deliver behaviour change marketing.
Absolute madness.
This is enough. Since January 2024, the UK government database shows over 1,000 contracts for taxis for local councils with a total awarded value of £346 million. So these are all on the procurement files. And what they do is they've screenshotted the start of the contract dates, how many people have got the contracts. But I went through and I actually pulled a couple up because sometimes, you always have the people, well, show us the link. Like, how do we know someone's not done it? So I went through and I pulled a couple up. And if you go through the procurement files and if you're unsure, you just want a link to prove it to yourself, you can usually type in something from the screenshot and then type in like .gov's government services or something, and the actual government website will come up to show you, government contracts. So what we need to do is, get things more streamlined. We've got a civil service. Half the people are still working from home, aren't they? Like,
I mean, that's crazy in itself, to be honest. How you can possibly do your job to the same ability as being in an office environment, surrounded by peers, I don't believe that for 1 minute. I believe some work can be done at home, but could you honestly say that anybody that works from home puts the same effort and the same time scale into their work than what they would do in the office? I mean, I say not.
I can tell you now, if I was on a salary and not trying, you know, every bit of money I make is, you know, it's not a salary. I have to work to earn that money.
Yeah.
But if I'm on a salary and I can sit at home, I'm for sure doing less work than when I've got other people watching me and saying, absolutely, I can categorically say, I am one of the most lazy people on the planet. And if people, I have to be pushed. So I have to push myself, because if I don't work, you know, I'm not going to earn anything. So I have to push myself. But if I'm just taking a salary and it, you know, you don't have to, you know, and they just say, like, you know, make a few phone calls, like, if it isn't commission based, for example, if it was commission based, like I said, but if it's not commission based, it's a simple salary, then
surely it's impossible to police as well. You know, your employer can't be at everybody's house every minute of every day. You know, obviously you can do conference calls and things like that, but you know, the policing of it, surely, I mean, if I owned a business, there's no way I'd have my employees working from home at all, apart from emergencies. So the Yvette Cooper has announced that they are creating or have created their own DOGE department. This was a week or two ago. I was talking about it on my Sunday Night Live program, and the question that I asked is, do you trust Labour with our money? So I'll put the same question to you. You're aware of this?
Yeah. I did see that she said she was going to do it, and I think it's a joke. There's not a chance in hell I would trust them. Thing is, they might find, you know, a lot of the wastage from the last government, which a lot of, you know, I was calling that out as well. You know, things like the PPE and the test and trace, and the billions they completely utterly spent on just absolute nonsense. And a lot actually of the procurement files things is from the previous government, because their contracts awarded, you know, in the last 2-3 years. So they would have been under them. But I don't trust that Yvette Cooper would hold what's going on right now today and hold those people accountable at all.
No, neither do I, and that was the general feeling from the followers that were watching on Sunday evening. Leilani, in the US, DOGE has stirred controversy with its aggressive cuts. We all know what they're doing over there, like USAID, for instance. Do you think we should learn from that, or should the UK take a more cautious approach to it?
No, I think we should go all in. I think we should do what they're like. When you see, I'm sorry, but you saw Rory Stewart crying that his wife's whatever it is, charities it, Turquoise Mountain was getting $1 million. You know, that contract was being stopped for $1 million. They were teaching something about modern art to Afghanis or Afghan people. And one of them was like a discussion on like this urinal that had words on it. It was the most bizarre thing I'd seen. And I'm like, is that what the money is going to? I mean, it's nuts. It's like, and a lot of these things, they need to be working themselves, right? So why is, you know, Turquoise Mountain, I do think they might sell things. I don't know a lot about, I've got to be honest, I don't really know that much about Turquoise Mountain, but I don't understand why it was getting $1 million from taxpayers' money, and then you're seeing videos teaching Afghan women about these urinals, but in an art form, because it was modern art. So yeah, that's all I can say. I think, look, obviously they're going to look into it. I think it will be bad if there's any legitimate charities that do suffer. But I think if you look at a lot of charities, they've got so much money tied up in assets or sitting in the bank, you know, big charities, that they need to be spending some of that money on, you know, on what's needed rather than tying it up. So, you know, I don't have a lot of sympathy for it at all.
No, me either. I mean, the this 18 billion pound black hole, which has been proven now to be a farcical figure made up by Yvette Cooper and Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, which is all they pounded on about for the first. It's funny, isn't it? Since that OBR report, I haven't heard 18 billion pound black hole mentioned once, and anything from here on. They surely can't be trusted with our money. Labour are well renowned for spend, borrow. And until people actually clock on to what's going on, and then they usually get outed. But they've got a super majority, which is the scary thing.
And I think, I mean,
I'm trouble with being in 4 years' time, before we get the opportunity to vote them out.
Sorry, I missed that bit. Say that.
I said, we have to wait 4 years.
I know.
But to put up with this before we have the chance to vote them out. In my eyes, that's a scary thought. Because 4 years.
No, absolutely. I didn't hear you say that, but yeah, 4 years to wait is because I can't even imagine the state of this country in 4 years. The way they're going now, the way they're decimating small businesses, the way they're decimating the farmers. None of them seem to have a clue about what's going on at all. I mean, Rupert Lowe put a tweet out today saying about the number of people in the civil service or high up in the civil service who have any clue about business is so tiny that all these people that are making up decisions just have no clue about any of it and the problems that people face trying to run a small business. So the June Slater, who you mentioned earlier, made a really good tweet a little while ago saying that you'd think her being middle class, working all her life, she could relax a little bit, just hang out with her dogs, drink a glass of wine, enjoy her life. But she says no, because, the super rich have their special tax hideouts that they can use. The working class who are actually working don't have that much money to give. So they're going to have to take mainly now from the middle class and the small businesses to feed the non-working class, because there's a whole new class now, which I've called them the non-working class. So you've got your hard-working working class, and you've got your middle class and whatever, but you've also got this non-working class, and they go down to the benefits office and they get their translators to translate what they need, and they can probably not hold a job because they can't speak the language, and we've got to fund all of those, as well as funding other things like Labour's 4.2 billion I just read that they want to send to Ukraine, and they want to commit to Ukraine, as well as our own people that they want to put on the ground there. It's like, I just can't imagine 4 years under these people.
No, I mean, the amount of money that they're spending on migrant hotels as well is phenomenal. And only yesterday, I think it might have been the day before, in the morning, Keir Starmer signed up to another 4 years of migrant hotel funding. I mean, so that shows you their thought process, and that they don't give a damn about what we think and, our upset and concerns over migrant hotels and the money being spent on them. So if you didn't know that, that's certainly something to go and look at. Yeah. But he signed up for another 4 years. Before you go, Leilani, I've got a couple of quick fire things. I just want to ask you 2 questions. First question is, if there was a general election tomorrow, who would you vote for?
Reform.
And I'll just add to that. So I'm a Reform voter. I'm a member. I interviewed Nick Tenconey of UKIP a few days ago, actually. And the more I hear from this guy, the more I'm actually not thinking about changing allegiance, but I like what he's got to say. Mm-hmm. He's tough on immigration. He's tough on, what he says he's going to do. I mean, saying it and doing it are obviously 2 different things. But do you think that Nigel Farage is a little bit weak when it comes to immigration?
Yeah. So, to expand on that, and I do like what Nick says. If I thought that UKIP had a chance of winning, but what I'm scared about is, it's already hard, because what I don't want is to ever see Labour get back in. And it does worry me that, some people are going to vote for Reform, some are going to vote for the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And it splits it there. But it would be awful to see, if reform could get a majority, that people split off and vote for smaller ones, which, by the way, I understand, because, David Curtin, Heritage Party, amazing as well. Love him. Tech Hong, love him with his party. Nick, as you said, I think Nigel has been weak. And I don't know if he kind of has to do that to try and get like some of the middle-ish people. But you do have Rupert Lowe, which to me, Rupert Lowe's holding.
That's the saving grace, isn't it? Is Rupert? I mean, the things that he's championing and the things that he's saying and the people that he's holding to account is phenomenal. And it kind of works because Nigel is like the head of the party, which means that Rupert can go about and do these things. But can you imagine Nigel saying and doing the things what Rupert is saying? He would be chastised for it.
That's the problem. I do think he would actually be strung up especially by the mainstream.
Yeah.
But so many people looking to Rupert, and he doesn't get battered in the same way. I think because he's not Nigel, he's able to say it and doesn't get completely battered by the mainstream media and the like ignorant idiot on the street. I'm just going back to, I've just pulled up his tweet because I don't think I read it out properly. Well, I didn't read it out, but what he was saying, this was like again this morning, this is such a good tweet he wrote. There are 306 senior civil servants in the Department for Business and Trade. How many have a directorship on Companies House? One out of 306 has current experience, just one. These people do not understand what they're doing to business owners. They don't know, they don't care. Their cozy jobs and pensions are safe. That's why I love Rupert Lowe. And that's what I was saying, like, I'm really not a political commentator, so it's hard for me to like describe politics. I only know, kind of
people can
aspects.
People can resonate with what he says. He's not too political with it, obviously, and people they get drawn in by what he says because he says it how it is, on a level that everybody can understand, and that's what I think people are drawn to him because of.
Yeah. And he really gets in. If you ever follow him on Twitter or Facebook, like he's really brilliant about just getting the facts, and he's putting out a lot of freedom of information requests, and he gets numbers and he gets facts and he gets everything so you can look at it properly and just see, wow, these are people that are in the Department of Business and Trade and they don't even have they're not even a company director. So how do they know what anyone's going through, really?
Well, they don't. Another good thing about Rupert is he actually engages with people as well. He tweet out and he will interact with a few people. Others put a tweet out and you never see any responses from them. So I do like that about him as well.
Yeah.
Last question before I let you go and enjoy your day. Donald Trump's stance on Ukraine and Putin.
Mm-hmm.
Your thought on? Did you see his tweet that he put out earlier or yesterday?
Yeah, the one everyone's going nuts about, saying,
yes.
Well, look, you know what? I agree with everything he said in that tweet, right? I am not a Putin sympathizer. I remember getting hell. This is the craziest thing. I've always been somebody who's just wanted peace and peace talks and negotiations. And as soon as I said I didn't agree with the war and us doing the sanctions, us sending everything, us getting involved and escalating it, I'll say we helped escalate it. Boris, I believe that Boris went over and scuppered the peace deals. For saying this, I was called a Putin sympathizer, which was not. I was also very early on called out the lies and the propaganda. Like Snake Island, they said that the Russians had killed all the soldiers on Snake Island. It was front page news everywhere. And as soon as they found the soldiers had been held and then released safely, it was like a tiny little thing to say, actually, the soldiers are okay. Then early doors, there was computer game footage going around and being used on news and online. So I called all of this out. There was an escalation. I've always just wanted peace. And I think, was it 7 or 8 months in, Donald Trump offered to try and make a peace deal, and you know, it just got laughed away. So I also think it's horrific that there are no elections during this time. And a lot of people have said, well, in Britain, blah, blah, blah. But in America, Americans have always had elections during wartime, even in the world wars. And if America didn't, they're always at war, bloody America, aren't they? So if they didn't, they'd never have any elections. You know, there's been the Gulf War, Vietnam, Falklands War, all these wars, they always had elections. So I think it is horrific that there's and I wouldn't even care if Trump said that Starmer was a dictator, because the way he's going about things, stopping by-elections, is just, you know, is bad as well. So, you know, I can't sit here and say bad things about what Trump said.
Absolutely. For somebody that's a self said that you're not a political commentator, you certainly know what you're talking about. So I appreciate you answering my political questions. Leilani, you've been amazing as always. I'd love to have you again in a few months' time. But for now, thank you.
Thank you. Anytime. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.